Yep, we're recording.
Okay, at this time, we would be calling for the hearing 2022-034, which is hopefully the zoning petition of Bart Myers and Sandra Myers. Anyone who's going to testify to ask that they stand up, be sworn in, that would be you, sir. Do you promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. I am the hearing officer. I'll be conducting the hearing today, and you must answer every question with a yes or no. A shake of the head or a mm-hmm is not acceptable. If there's something that you don't understand, then ask me. If I approve this today, it will then go to the county board next meeting, and you would need a 50% approval of the members who are then in attendance at that meeting. If I were to deny your request, and mine is only a recommendation, that it's not an official approval or disapproval, but if I were to not approve your request, you would need 3/4 of the members of the county board that are then in attendance. There are some standards that you need to meet. I will pass out a copy to you.
Thank you.
And if you understand them, good luck. Can you tell us what you're hoping to do today?
Put in a 2-car garage, concrete foundation.
Okay, and why are you putting it in the position that you're putting it in?
That's really the only location that it's available. It's all enclosed by trees and right off the driveway.
Okay, and have you talked to staff about the location as to where you're trying to put it?
Staff being, yes.
Okay, and what have they told you?
They said because of measurements and encroachment that we would have to talk to you.
Okay, and how long have you had the subject property?
21 years.
And you are on a cul-de-sac, is that correct?
Correct.
And there is a house that is to the south of you on that cul-de-sac?
Yes.
And at the very end, the southern end of the cul-de-sac, there's some vacant land, but I'm presuming that that land is not buildable, correct?
Correct.
It looks kind of low and kind of wet.
That is a retention pond that was sold to my other neighbor for $1 just to take care of it, I think.
Okay, and you filed an official site plan, is that correct?
Yes.
And you have a 15-foot utility easement that runs along the perimeter of the property?
Yes.
Correct? And you also have a 25-foot setback restricted line on your property, correct?
Yes.
And you also have a 50-foot building setback line on your property?
Yes.
So you really are pretty limited in terms of where you can put this structure, is that correct?
Yes.
Where is your septic?
Front of the house.
To the north?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be partially within that 50-foot building line?
From the front Highview Road, I think it's going to be right there.
Okay, and where is your well?
Well is just off the garage, kind of south towards my neighbor.
Okay, have you talked to your neighbors about your request?
A little bit, yes.
And has anybody given any either agreements or disagreements with what you're proposing?
Nobody seems to mind.
Okay, and you do have mature vegetation on the property, is that correct?
Yes.
In fact, the property line that you share with your neighbor, who is farther down the cul-de-sac, is pretty much lined with trees, is it not?
Yes.
And a number of those trees are evergreens, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And why do you feel that you need this additional garage?
We're trying to put in woodworking shop and glass blowing shop for my kids and open up some room in the other garage.
And do you have any traffic on Overland Road in that cul-de-sac other than your vehicles or your neighbor's vehicles?
No.
And how about school bus? Does it pick up any kids in that area?
No.
And where you're proposing the garage, it's not going to interfere with anyone's sight line on that road, will it?
No, it'll all be covered up with trees.
And how long have you lived there?
21 years.
And your neighbor across the street, not directly across, but one house over, he also has a trailer in his yard, does he not?
Yes.
And you have a trailer in your yard.
Yes.
Where will you store that trailer if you get your garage built?
That will be at a storage facility, probably.
Okay. So if you get this new garage, it actually will clean up the property a bit in terms of what you're storing out in front?
Oh, yeah.
And right now, it appears you have 3 vehicles?
There's a couple more.
Okay. And will you be able to put any of your vehicles into the garage if you're given permission to do this?
Yes.
And it appears that a number of your neighbors have either 5-car garages or they have a second garage in addition to a 2 or 3-car garage, is that correct? And you also have a bunch of neighbors that also have trailers similar to yours and also kind of mobile home trailers on the property, is that correct?
Yes.
And I've given to you a list of standards. Some of them are explicable, some of them are not. Isn't it true that the particular surroundings, shape, or topographical condition of the specific property involved would result in a particular hardship upon the owner, as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And in part, you have an unusual shaped property and you are a corner lot, which subjects you to additional conditions that other properties would not have. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Isn't it also true that the conditions upon which the application for the variation are based are unique to the property for which the variation is sought and are not generally applicable to other property within the same zoning district? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And again, that's in part because you've got this corner lot with all kinds of restrictions on it. Is that correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to increase the monetary gain realized from the property? Isn't that true?
Yes.
In fact, it's going to cost you money to try to make this improvement. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And also your taxes will go up. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
We thank you for that. Oh, sorry. And isn't it true that the alleged difficulty or hardship is caused by the ordinance and has not been created by any person, meaning you, presently having an interest in the property? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And it's the county zoning ordinance and also the various setback lines that were put on the property by the developer that are causing you the problem. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And isn't it true that the granting of the variation will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the neighborhood in which the property is located? Isn't that true?
Yes.
By putting this up, you can actually improve the condition of your property because you'll have additional storage and possibly be able to store a vehicle inside. Is that correct?
Correct.
Isn't it also true that the proposed variation will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property or substantially increase the congestion in the public streets or increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety or substantially diminish or impair property values within the adjacent neighborhood? Isn't that true?
Yes.
You have very limited traffic on that cul-de-sac road, as you previously testified. Is that correct?
Yes.
And any air or light that could be affected by this garage is already affected by the tree line that you have on the property line. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
So you're not really making any changes to that.
No.
Other than the fact that you may have a son doing glass blowing in the property, you're really not increasing the danger of fire, are you?
No.
And isn't it true that the granting of the variation requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other land or structure of the same zoning district? Isn't that true?
Yes.
If your neighbor were to make a similar request, would you agree that he should be allowed to build that additional structure similar to what you are requesting?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that you wish to say?
No.
Staff?
I just had one question. As far as the driveway access to the new garage, are you proposing to just have it branch off of the existing driveway, or?
Yes.
Okay, so no new
No
access
new-
point or anything like
No.
that? Okay, that's the only question I have.
Okay. For the record, this is Bart R. Myers and Sandra A. Myers, the owners of record, seeking a variation within the E1 district to allow for a minimum street setback of 26 feet instead of the minimum 50 feet required for an accessory structure in the effective side yard. The subject property consists of approximately 1.011 acres and is located on the northeast side of Overland Road, east of the intersection of Highview Drive and Overland Road, with a common address of 3906 Overland Road, Crystal Lake, Illinois, Township of Nunda. Tax ID or PIN is 15-19-352-009. The current land use is single-family residential, and to the north, south, east, and west, the adjacent land use would also be single-family residential. The property is currently zoned E1 estate, as is the adjacent zoning to the north, east, south, and west. On the 2030 plan, the property is designated residential. The municipal plans within 1.5 miles would be as follows: Island Lake, single-family, 20,000 square foot lots is the minimum. Oakwood Hills, no designation. Holiday Hills, no designation. Prairie Grove, single-family detached. The property is improved with a 2-story brick and frame residence, deck, pool, stone and brick walls, asphalt driveway, areas of concrete and brick. There are no wetlands on the subject property, nor would there be a flood hazard on the property, and there are no zoning violations on the subject property, and the property was built in 1998 with a valid permit. And the IDNR report was not required. The letter was submitted. The property does have the appropriate sign out for the zoning, and based on the testimony, I would be in favor of this request and would recommend its approval to the county board. When is the next meeting?
The next county board meeting would be November 15th.
You do not have to appear. In all likelihood, this will be on what's called the consent agenda with other items, and they will simply recommend like approval or disapproval of all of the items on that. They will probably not pull yours off for specific consideration, but if you wish to attend, you can do so. You're not allowed to participate. You would simply be there to watch. You will get notice of what the vote is after that meeting.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right.
And I'm off to Normal, Illinois.